Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode today. Come on in, get comfortable where you are sitting and or standing, however you want to be today, and join us for another episode today. I'd love for you to take a moment to share out this video, to hit that heart button so that more people can enjoy this show with us today. My name is Jessica Dugas. I'm an intuitive mentor and energy healer.
And my name is Donna Brown, and I'm a holistic wellness practitioner. And this is The Breakthrough. It's the spiritual view for your soul and mind, where we dig deep on today's spiritual hot topics and inspire you with the stories of those breakthrough moments that change our lives.
So we have another amazing show today. Our guest is the fabulous Tina C. Hines, who is a life transformation specialist. She has been quite the transformational journey of her own, and she's going to be sharing with us her story of the diagnosis of depression in her life and the breakthrough moment that she had with that. I know that this is going to be another amazing show today, but first we have to get to our hot topics. And that means that I have to take a minute and say hello to our panelists today. We have the fabulous Heather Clark, our declutter coach and consultant, helping us to make room in our lives for these breakthrough moments. And we have our friend Tara Abram, keeping us calm and centered. She's our meditation teacher, designer, and photographer on the panel, the Jane of all trades. So without further ado, it's time for Hot Topics.
So today's hot topic is so perfect. It's do you use think, THINK, think acronym in your life? And the reason this is so perfect for me is I planned on going in one direction with this, and something really strange happened to me yesterday that really made me break down think. So yesterday I made a post on a social media site, and in the post I was talking about broad spectrum, and it came out as bored spectrum. So autocorrect obviously knew better than I did what I was trying to say, right? So I did proofread before I hit that send button, but however, I was proofreading the way I thought it was supposed to read and not actually looking at the actual words. Lesson learned, walk away, come back with a clear head, clear eyes, got that. So someone commented, and I quote, "Idiot, stupid. It is broad spectrum and not," all capital letters, "bored," all capital letters, spectrum. How stupid can you be?
Whoa. Wow.
Wow.
Ooh.
Was it truth? Well, yes, I did misspell the word. It was true. Was it helpful? Once I got past the shame and name calling, yeah, I guess I did learn a lot in that statement. Was it inspiring? No, not so much. Nothing about it inspired me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Was it necessary? For me, no. However, I do know there are people that don't do well with misspelled words, and they have to address it because it keeps running in their head. Got that, perfectly understand. But could you have like private messaged me or maybe said it in a nicer way? I don't know. Was it kind? Again, no. On so many different levels. It did, however, bring up something that I needed to heal and release. What I have realized that in that private, like if they had sent me a private message, what I have realized in a private message or even kinder words that I needed to heal and release on. Maybe and maybe not. However, it brought up two things for me. Number one is it brought up my fear of public shaming. So if I hadn't have been my version of publicly shamed in that comment, would I have thought to really dig deep down inside of me and work on public shaming? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But it did make me do that. It did make me do some major soul searching yesterday. And then the other thing was, couldn't she have called me stupid idiot in a lot nicer way? And again, would I have got the meaning if it had been nicer? Maybe not. I don't know. It's hindsight's 2020. You never know, right? So don't get me wrong. I truly believe think before we speak and find inspiring and kinder ways to speak to one another. I'm all for that. But I just found it interesting that this particular situation happened because I was going to go in a completely different direction. But I learned a lesson yesterday on something that I really needed to work on by it being handled in the way it was handled. However, I do think we need to be very inspiring and have kinder words. So with
I
that
think
said,
the person
Jessica,
that did that
what do you
comment
think?
needs to think.
Huh?
I said, I
Right,
think
yeah.
the person that made that comment needs to think
Right,
before they
right,
write
exactly.
it.
Yes,
Because I find that that's where the social media comes in, where people are behind their computer or their phone or whatever, and they'll say certain things,
right.
and they're not thinking whatsoever. But if they're in front of that person face to face, oh, they would have thought or think.
Right.
Think.
They
I don't know how to put
thought.
that. I was like, wait, I'm not sure how to put that acronym into it.
I know.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's very entertaining because I guarantee you, if she was right in front of you, that wouldn't have been the words that she or he, I don't know why I said she, but
Yeah.
she or he would have used, because they would have had that think. They would have been like, okay, well, they're in front of me. How do I really want to approach this? So I think that's crazy. Like,
Right.
that they would do that, but it is
Right.
good. Like you said, you were able to heal some stuff that came up, but still, like,
Right.
that person definitely needed to use think for sure.
Yes.
Sarah, what do you think? What do you think?
I think they got a cage to the Grouchy pants. But but it's so interesting how you can see that parallel sometimes. Like, there was the learning in there for you, and obviously on their end, there's something there that needs to be addressed or looked at because they feel necessary to have to voice their opinion on something that's probably, like you looked at it from a different perception. And so you're kind of over the fact that you spelled it incorrectly, whatever. I spell cool wrong all the time, but I do it intentionally. So
Right.
I mean,
Right.
whatever, Yeah. So, but it is interesting and how you shift your perception. Like, wow, there was something that really triggered me with this. Like, what was it? Why was I so triggered by this? So
Well, I know at the time I was hurt, and because you all know I'm very sensitive, so I cried like a baby for about 10 minutes. And then at that point I was like, wait a minute, this has obviously triggered something in me for me to, to feel humiliated, to feel, to get sad, to start crying. And I'm going to cry again. No. So it was like, I need to figure out what this is bringing up for me. And the other thing that I wish I had done, I wish I'd have handled it better, because what I did was I chose to delete the post. Instead of going into the person and saying, gotta love autocorrect, man, we really need to learn how to proofread, or I need to stop and learn how to proofread, or something, just to kind of make it light. But instead I reacted, and I was just like, I don't want anybody else to see this, because it had been up for 2 hours. So when I saw that, and I saw how many people saw the post, and I was just like, oh my God, this has got to go. So I just deleted it. And I really wish I had handled it differently in that regard. But bottom line is, it made me think, which, because we had the think acronym going for today, I was like, oh, think. Well, it was true. I really did do that. So that was, I think had we not had that hot topic coming up, I don't know that I would have gone in that direction though. So it kind of was really good timing for it all. In a weird way, but it was kind of really good timing. So what did you think, Jessica?
Well, I mean, that there has been things coming up in my own life, which is what prompted me to want to really use this as a hot topic, because I'm very similar in that I understand that sometimes people feel like they need to voice their opinions. I am not for silencing anybody. I am not for saying you can't have a thought or opinion or anything else. However, I am for using the little thing that we have called private message. I am not a fan of people calling others out in public. I don't think I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's okay. And I think many of us may have struggled when we were younger about being bullied or called out or anything like that where we're kind of being made a mockery of in front of other people. And so I think that if we just, I mean, the necessary part is what gets me. If there's a little spelling mistake, it's not necessary. And I'll tell you guys a little story. So we have, there is a small business that's local to me that is just basically like a mom and pop type thing out of their house. And they would post this, and this is a couple years ago now, but they would post every single morning something that they would have for sale on their website. And they would type out the words, "This is the item that we have for sale today." Not sale, S-E-L-L. Now, obviously, it should have been S-A-L-E, but and it annoyed the daylights out of me. I would look at it and I would say to myself, sale, not sale. But did I have to say something? Was it necessary? No. Was it hurting their sales in any kind of way? No. They had sales all the time. It's their own thing. If it got to the point where I felt like I had to say something about it in my own little world about me, I would have sent her a private message. I would have never in a million years thought this would be a great time to point that out on her business page for everybody to see. So that it's that necessary part that that I can't really understand. So that's my whole thing with it, really, is just that that part. Is it necessary? Can we just use the private message? Can we just be a little kinder in the way that we say things? But it's like I said, it's not necessary, because I think even sometimes if we say something nice, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that it was necessary. So that's my 2 cents on it for what it's worth. I think it's important for us to think. And it's funny because Tara said when I was talking to Tara about this beforehand, she was like, it looks like a second grade it looks like a second grade graphic. And I said, well, what's funny is it should be something that's taught. We shouldn't have to go over this as adults.
Right. Yeah.
We shouldn't. So.
I was joking.
No, I know.
When we message each other, we kind of just regroup around.
Yeah.
But it's true, because there's the flip side of it too, that like perhaps you did have a spelling error and someone reached out to you and was like, hey, I noticed this, and like that whole perfectionism comes up sometimes, and you're like, oh yeah, great, I have to go in and fix it. Like, thank you so much for letting me know. Really appreciate it. So it kind of goes back to that topic we had a couple weeks ago about that compassion, I think, about not knowing what the other person is thinking or what's going on the other side or in their world or their perception of it, because again, you're okay with it. Grumpy Pants over there has something to say. But I love what Jessica's saying. You just use a private message. It's like, hey, I happen to notice this. Just making you aware of it. There you go. You do what you want with it. And you're like, no, I did it like that on purpose.
Right.
It was my intention. You felt wrong.
Like the name calling was so unnecessary, and it's just like, really? Was that? No, that wasn't necessary whatsoever. So.
Right.
We will send them love because they need love.
Exactly.
Yeah. They need lots of love. They're obviously working on something within themselves. And so I sent lots of love yesterday after I got over my emotional roller coaster ride, trying to assimilate all that I learned and trying to turn it into a lesson for today's show.
I think you did what you had to in the moment, because in the long run, it's better, I think, to take yourself out of the situation than it would have been for you to react and then end up saying something that you wouldn't have been the one thinking,
Right.
And so I think it was better probably in the long run for you to delete than it would have been going the other direction. It's always one of those things, though, when things like that happen, where we look back and we say, okay, I could have came back with something better than that, or I could have came up back with something, whatever. But at least it's a situation where nothing more came of it, right?
Right, right. Well, and the other thing too is I think we react in the moment the way we need to react in the moment, um, based on whatever's going on. And so obviously the universe, God, higher power, whatever you want to call it, knew better that I was just better off to delete it and then work on it from there than I was to actually react. So I feel like even though today I'm going, I wish I had, we play that old, I wish I would have, what if kind of game that we play with ourselves. So I'm over here going, I wish I had done this and I wish I hadn't deleted it. But I did. And so it is what it is.
Hey,
A lot of lessons learned.
That's right. That's right. Well, ladies, it has come the time, the end of our hot topics. It's been a good one today, and I am really curious what you all think about it. So please be sure to comment below if you use the THINK acronym in your life. I know that Tig is tuning in today. Hi, Tig. She was talking about how she has it on the wall at her office, which that is always a good place to have that acronym to make sure that you are responding to your clients, customers, co-workers, your boss in that way. As well. So I think that's awesome too. So everybody make sure whether you're live or on the replay that you tune in below. Do you use the THINK acronym in your life? So without further ado, everybody, I want to welcome our special guest on the breakthrough today. As I mentioned earlier, she's a life transformation specialist as well as a fellow intuitive. Everyone, please hit that heart button, hit the love button, and welcome our guest, Tina C. Hines, to the breakthrough today. Yay!
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you see me?
Yes, we can. We are so excited that you are here today because I met you not long ago on Facebook, and I'm just your energy always lights me up. You've always got such good things to say, and you've always got such good things to share, and I just thought everybody needs to hear this. So I'm really excited that you are here today. I would love to know what you think about our hot topic today. Do you use that THINK acronym in your life?
It's funny because as I was listening to you ladies discuss it, and as Donna was sharing her story, and we know that there are a lot of grammar correct police and speller checkers on social media, but some of us don't have control over the how the phones autocorrect on our behalf. Mm-hmm. And when I was thinking about the acronym THINK, since you guys told me what it was, and now I have a better understanding, I won't say that I consciously think about when I'm going to respond, but at the same time, when I'm scrolling social media, because I know that sometimes people can't feel when I may be joking about something, I ask myself, and I've been doing this more consistently now, does this serve my higher good? Is this really going to do anything if I respond or if I don't respond? And if I decide that it doesn't, I just keep scrolling, because we know how quickly something that could be an engaging topic or a great conversation can shift in a minute. And one of my favorite authors, Don Miguel Ruiz, he often in his books, he writes, I'm only responsible with what I say. I'm not responsible for how you receive it. And when I think about the think, that is something that I take into account. How is the person going to receive it? It can come out my delivery may be, you can tell if I'm being cutthroat about it by my facial expression, or if I'm being genuine about it and it wasn't really harmful. But as Donna was saying, I think the one clear thing is sometimes we need to know when we need to take conversations behind the scenes, or when they need to be in front of the world to see. Because if you're going to do something negative in front of the world, then that means the apology needs to come in front of the world as well.
Absolutely, I agree with that as well. I think that it's so important for us to kind of know that limit, to know when we need to, what things need to be private and what things are okay in public like that. So I love that insight, Tina. And as I mentioned, I'm so excited for you to share your story today because I think it's one that many people can relate to. I know a lot of people, myself included, have had some type of mental health diagnosis in their life. I would love for you to start us off today, Tina, by sharing what life was like for you around that time that you received that diagnosis.
Well, I'm going to go a month or two before. Actually, life was great a month or two before. I was what I considered in a very happy place. And what ended up happening was I had gotten a phone call because my mom had had a ruptured cerebral aneurysm and was rushed to the hospital. And I'm an only child. And so what ended up happening was I needed to just drop everything and prepare to be away from my home for what I thought was going to be a couple of days that turned into a month. And my mom was in the hospital and I was taking care of her. And with all of the responsibility of having conversations with doctors, trying to make sure that she received the best of care, trying to gain a better understanding of what was going to transpire, you know, during and after she recovered from her aneurysm. And then how I was going to make sure she got the care she needed, but also needed, knowing that I needed to return back home because we lived in 2 different states. And so after everything was said and done, my mom survived. She is living very healthy. I returned home. And in the days after I returned home, it's sort of a fog. A couple of things that I do remember is that my suitcase sat at the foot of my bed for about a week. As I'm riding in the car on my way from the airport, I just kept looking around like this looks familiar, but it still feels unfamiliar to me. And I was exhausted. And the one thing that I kept doing was I was getting up, following the same routine, but I was just going through the motions. I don't know, half the time, I don't know how I got to work. I don't know how I got myself dressed, but I was going back and forth through the motions of just existing. And at some point, I realized that something wasn't quite right because I still had not unpacked my suitcase at the foot of my bed. And one day, my boss had asked me, she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I don't think so." No, first I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then in a matter of seconds, I turned around and said, "I don't think so." And I said, "It's taking every ounce of strength for me not to fall down in the fetal position underneath my desk and just cry because that's all I want to do." And she said, "Okay, so what's going on?" And we started processing what was going on. And I says, and what's great is my boss was a doctor. And she said, I says, I'm uncertain, but I don't feel like me. I know I'm getting work done. I know I'm doing things at home, but I don't feel like me. And I don't understand what it is that I'm experiencing. And so in time, she said, "Well, what do you need to do, Tina, to get better?" And I said, "I think I need to go away." But that was a hard decision to make because I had just returned from being away for a month and a half. And now I needed to turn around and leave again to take care of myself. And what I did was I escaped. I escaped to the Caribbean. And I spent a couple of days there soul searching and processing and asking my higher power, like, what is it that you want me to do? And what is going on? Because I don't understand this. I'm not eating, even when I'm hungry. I'm just crying for no reason at all. And I'm tired and I'm not tired. It was like, it was a myriad of emotions that I was experiencing. And so to make a long story short, when I returned home from Anguilla, I was talking to some of my friends and I was telling my friends, I said, "I think I need some help." And so I started with our EAP in getting help. And then I realized I needed better help than that. And then I started researching therapists, and going through the motions of finding the right therapist was key. And as I was sharing earlier with you ladies, I didn't realize at the same time that I was going through my clinical depression, I was also experiencing an awakening. And that was something I was definitely unfamiliar with, because I didn't know what was going on, and no one in my family could help me, but I was asking a myriad of questions to try to find out. But the depression was real. The depression caused me to need medication. And I had a cocktail of prescription medication that I had tried, because I'm so highly sensitive to meds. The doctor kept trying one and kept trying another. And the interesting thing that, as I was sharing about going to therapy, was the first therapist wanted to label me as bipolar. And I says, well, yeah, I'm not bipolar. And I was like, I don't care how many degrees you have. I've known me for 30 some odd years, and I know I don't have bipolar. So we're going to try something else. And so he gave me a couple of prescriptions. And then I realized that he really wasn't listening to what I was saying. And so I fired him and I went to another doctor. And I realized, because I was experiencing my awakening, I was feeling her problems. So I couldn't stay with her either. And then I fired her, went to another doctor, fired him. Then finally, the fourth doctor was the one that got it. He was a licensed clinical social worker, but he was also a spiritual person. And in our conversation, the first thing I said to him was, whatever I share with you, you have to promise me you will not put me in the hospital. And he says, well, why would that be the first thing that comes out of your mouth? I says, because I've seen movies. You put crazy people in the hospital. Yes, at 40, I was like, you put crazy people in the hospital. You're not putting me in the hospital. So we're gonna resolve that that's not going to happen, right? And he was like, Tina, I'm not gonna put you in the hospital. Do you feel you need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, I don't want to kill myself. He says, well, that's a good thing to know. And so, we were having a dialogue, and then finally I started sharing about my grandmothers, my ancestors, who I would feel their presence around me. And when he said, that's a lovely thing, I knew he was the right doctor. But the depression, it took a toll on me. It really did. It was like, I kept telling my guy, his name was Ray. I kept telling Ray, I says, I want the old Tina back. And I'm going to get emotional about it. I want the old Tina back. But I knew that I was going through this transition, and that the old Tina that was not going to be coming back. And it was going to be a better version of her. And so the depression, it was a blessing and a curse. It allowed me to open up this gift, and it allowed me to connect with a lot of fabulous people so I can embrace this gift. But it was taxing on my body emotionally. It was taxing on my body physically, because of the depression and because of the prescription meds I had to take. My weight had ballooned up to 193 pounds. And so it was just taking a big toll on me.
When you were in that situation, do you feel like that there was something special about you that allowed you to keep going? I know so many people who have struggled with depression, with anxiety and things like that, who can't seem to get out of that, who can't seem to pull themselves out. What do you feel like allowed you to keep going, to take that escape to the Caribbean, to do these things that you know that you needed to do to get out of it?
I think the first part was having a great support system. When I like to call them my front row, my besties. When my besties realized that the way I was behaving was not my norm. And, you know, when I said to them, I think I need to go away, they were supportive in the aspect of, I'm a single mom. And they were like, okay, so how can we best support you to make sure that your son is taken care of while you're away? What is it that you need from us? And also my boss being very understanding. And I think if they had not been as supportive, I probably would have just keep going through the motions, as many of us do, until I fell down. And the key was they were trying to support me before I fell down. There was an occasion where me and one of my friends was relocating, and we were all meeting up for breakfast, and they all kept looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, what do you mean? And I kept pushing my hands in my pocket. And my demeanor, they said, was childlike. And they said, you're acting like a little child, like a child who's very shy and you don't want nobody to touch you. Like I couldn't take people touching me or hugging me. And I said, I don't know, I can't explain it. And so what was great was they were non-judgmental, but they knew that there was something that wasn't right. And at the end of the day, because I'm a single mom, I had to make sure that I was okay for my son. I had to make sure that I was going to be able to take care of him. And there was a time where I was so emotionally drained that I couldn't even stand at the stove to boil water to make myself oatmeal, and he had to do it. And my son's older. And so when I think that was the eye opener for me, when I couldn't make my own bowl of oatmeal, that he had to do it, that's when I knew that I had to do something.
So you talked about needing to actually have a great support system around you, and knowing that you needed that at the time. But did you find it hard to ask for help? Like when you realized that was happening and that things were going to have to transpire differently, was it easy? Did you find it easy or hard to ask for help in those moments?
I think it was hard to ask for help because I was the superwoman of our front row group. I was the one that everyone typically would come to. But what was great was they noticed that something wasn't right. And so because they opened the doorway for me, it allowed me to step my foot in and be transparent about it. And it allowed me to really just step back and allow other people to help take care of me where I was unable to take care of myself. Yeah.
So now that you're on the other side of that, do you find that there's certain situations that bring you back emotionally, mentally to where you were? Like that, I don't like the word trigger, but
that's the word.
Okay. That
so
triggers that.
Are there triggers? Yes. I can easily recognize when I'm feeling when there are certain challenges going on in my life. And I may be like feeling myself I like to say relaxing in the bed too much. And I will say, okay, you know what this looks like. My favorite saying is, I've seen this movie, I know how it ends. So because I've seen the movie, I know what it's about. And my goal, this is what is always in my head, goal, never to have to take medication for my depression. And so because I know that's my goal, I now have to backtrack and say, so what do you do to avoid the medication? Do you need to contact your therapist? Do you need to go and do XYZ? What is the trigger of what's going on in your life? Is it the relationship? Well, right now it's not the relationship because I don't have one. But is it a relationship? Is it your business? Is it the finances? What's going on that you need to change? in order to not end up back in the place that you were. Because I like to consider that was my breaking point, my worst point, and I don't ever want to get back to that point again. So I can sense when my energy is a little off, and also because of being the light workers that we are, I have to ask myself, is this mine or is this somebody else's? And then once I process it, this is mine. Okay, so Tina, what are you going to do? I have some deep conversations with the woman in the mirror.
I love it. It's just such an amazing story. And I have to tell you, I probably would be the exact same as you when you're like going to the doctor and you're like, if I tell you everything I have to tell you, you're not putting me in the hospital. That was the best. That was seriously the best. Because yeah, I could just totally visualize that, because it's like you're holding on to all this stuff sometimes that you just need to release, but you need to feel like you're in a space that you feel safe to release those things.
Mhm.
And you know, because you become vulnerable and you give up that you know, that power in a sense. It's not full, and I don't like to look at it that way, because I think it's very powerful when you can move through emotions. But I think it's that feeling of giving up your power and being vulnerable and exposed. But in truth, you want the help. You need the help, and you're like, I need to be understood and I need to be heard in order for me to receive the help that I need so that I can move forward. So
Mm.
yeah,
And that was it. I mean, in addition to therapy, I'm a huge fan of journal writing. I believe in, I like to call it releasing the pain through your pen. And that's what I encourage women to do often through my coaching. If anyone ever works with me, I'm like, have you written in your journal? We knew you were going to say that, because there's so much in words, whether you write one word, 10 words, a paragraph, a book, there's so much information that you can be sharing in your journal that helps you to gain clarity. And in addition to that, meditation. I found meditation even when I wasn't looking for it. Back in the day when Deepak Chopra initially started the 21-day meditation, that was how I discovered meditation. And back then it wasn't that great. This now it's fine tuned a lot better. But they used to have a number of different leaders when they did the meditation, and I'm just like, every day it was a different voice, and I kept telling my friends, I think they're trying to pull me into a cult. This is crazy. Because it was just you are at, I'm like, no, I'm not at peace. There's something crazy going on here. And so I struggled with that. And then finally, whatever they did, they realized that everybody's voice wasn't the greatest voice to be leading the meditation. But meditation has been a consistent practice of mine. And it is where I find peace and inner peace. And I can simply and get back centered again. And that has been everything to me on this journey of continuing to stay healed from my clinical depression, and to stay away from the prescription medication. Because sometimes, you know, I'm making no medical claims. I'm telling nobody not to take their meds, but sometimes those medications, they make it worse more than they make it better. And as I told my physician, as I fired everybody, and then my therapist, my licensed clinical social worker, he couldn't give me prescribed meds, but my primary physician could. And what was great was we had over a 20-year relationship, and she was able to understand when I said, I am not going to be living my life on these prescription medications. So our job is to get me off of them. And so once I was able to work on my emotional weight, I was able to work on my physical weight, but I couldn't do both at the same time. And that's what many people try to do. We try to work on so many things at one time. It's like buying a new house and you want to decorate every room in the house at one time, but you don't have one complete room. So I'm like, I'm going to go one room at a time. I'm going to decorate one room. And if it looks great, then I can move on to the next one. Or the same thing was with my healing. While I was working on my emotional weight and it's going through my awakening, and I was working with someone who I call my Reiki girl through my emotional my awakening at the same time, and then I worked on the physical. But I had to work on each of them systematically.
I think that so many people do that, and I so appreciate you talking about working on one thing at a time, because I think that naturally, sometimes as humans, we just want to do all the things, and when we have that moment of realization where we say, okay, something's got to give, we're like, let's just fix it all right now. And we can't do that because we can't focus on more than one area at a time and expect that it's gonna not be one hot mess when we're done with it. But I would love to finish off talking with you today, Tina. If anybody out there is feeling like they are not themselves, if they are feeling off, if they are feeling like something is just not quite right for them, and they think they might be feeling depressed, or they think they might have issues with depression in their lives, what would you suggest for those people to do today?
Number one, if you know you better than anyone else, better than a doctor, better than a therapist, better than your friends and your parents. And if you recognize that your normal behaviors are not as normal as they used to be, then, have a conversation, talk to your friends. If your friends are just saying, girl, get over it, move on to somebody else, because there's no just get over it. And if you have an extended relationship with your doctor, have a conversation with your doctor and say, listen, this is what I'm experiencing in my life. And I'm feeling dis-ease. I'm feeling a lot of dis-ease. And I'm serious. Just talk till the cows come home, till somebody who's going to listen, but not listen to respond. Listen to be listening to you, and then ask and allow them to say, do you need my help? And if you need help, give yourself permission to say yes instead of no. But definitely seek out help. Even if, excuse me, sometimes many people, they try to decide if it's therapy or coaching that they need. And I'm very transparent with the women that I work with. When I have dialogues with them and I'm like, ooh, that sounds clinical to me, I will immediately tell you to go and find someone that fits you. Sometimes we like to just, oh, let's go through the book, let me Google. Yeah, that one sounds good. No, you have to find the right person who understands you, who gets you, who really is in tune with their craft, who's not just trying to push you on some pills to make the problem disappear, sort of.
I love that so much great advice, Tina. And I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think that you coming here to share your story today was very important, because I think many people have struggled with this, and then they end up getting stuck. And your story really shows the empowered action that you took from firing those doctors and getting new doctors, and knowing yourself and saying, I don't want, the medicine is not for me, that I need something else to do. And when you're in bed saying, Tina, you know what's going on here, and it's really just been about knowing yourself and taking that empowered action that you can do it if you want to. And I think that that's a message that so many people need to hear. What's next for you, Tina? What are you up to?
So what am I up to? Right now, I'm preparing for 2 international retreats, as I had shared previously with you ladies behind the scenes. I like to take women outside of the country, outside of the United States, to allow them to focus on their own personal journey of healing, mind, body, and spirit. And so next year, I am doing a retreat that focuses on self-love and remembering to live, love, and laugh. I'm doing that in Bali, Indonesia. And that's in April. And then in June, we are headed to Anguilla, British West Indies, for a healing retreat, and just focusing on healing our mind, body, and our spirit.
I love it. And I love that you're creating that space for other women to do the same things that you've done in your life. I think that's amazing. And I salute you 100% for creating that space for other people. Thank you for the work that you do, Tina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
All right. Well, I am so excited that Tina had the opportunity to spend time with us today. I am going to take a second here and do a little shuffling behind the screen because somehow our video gets all shuffled, and so we should be back to normal any second here. But at any rate, so much about Tina's story hit home for me today. um, from everything from just that noticing that something is not quite right to um, not wanting to be on medicine to her child being such a catalyst for wanting things to change in her life as well, and for her to get better. I know for me, I've shared many times with people that at my lowest points, my children have really been that thing for me, those people for me that have said, Jessica, get out of bed. You know, that push for me to continue and keep going in my life. Um, Such a powerful story, and I love, as I mentioned, the empowered and inspired action that she took. I think a lot of times we get the picture of a mental health diagnosis, and you know, we see a lot on TV and we hear a lot from other people that when they go through this stuff, that it's a picture of every single day they're huddled in bed or they're in the hospital or whatever it looks like. It doesn't seem that there is a possibility that you can still take action and you can still make healthy choices for yourself, even if you are dealing with these things. Um, and I think that that's so important to realize, and that there's so many people who can stand to hear that message today, that you can be empowered and you can make choices for yourself. And if you can't, you have to, like Tina said, go looking for that help, for someone that can help you out of that space. What did you ladies think of Tina's story today?
I thought
Well,
it was
I'm like,
awesome. Donna, like, it was
yeah,
awesome.
go ahead, Sarah.
No, go
for it.
ahead. That was just my tip. I was just adding in. That was awesome. Move on.
It was awesome, and you know, like Jessica, I can relate to so much. And you know, my son was, especially when I went through my first bout of depression when we first moved to the beach, and I had just left my job with the government, and the mental health director came in on the day that my last day there, and she looked at me and she said, "You're clinically depressed. I hope you get help." And I laughed and I was like, "No, I'm not." And I, you know, burst into tears at the same breath, kind of like Tina talked about. You know, you went with that, "No, I'm fine," because that's what we're programmed to be, because we're not allowed to show emotion. And I burst into tears and went, "I know I am. How do I fix it? What do I do?" And I was leaving, you know, shortly thereafter, and leaving, moving away. So anyway, it was just really funny because my first reaction was, I don't want to take medication. I mean, I watched my grandmother take depression medication and waltz down the Alzheimer's pack, and I knew that, you know, the first side effect to depression medication was suicide and more depression and Alzheimer's, and I was just like, no, and I dug my heels in, and I literally had to figure a way out. But the funny thing about it is when she said, "You can't work on everything at once." And you know, in the very beginning, when you just want to feel better, and so you're trying everything at once and nothing's working. Or maybe it is, but you just don't think it is because you're trying everything at once. And so that's when I had uh, the mental health directors, because she was calling me constantly at this point in time because she was worried about me. Um, she said to me, "Journal." And that's when she introduced brain dumping to me, or what she called brain dumping, which was just to write and just get it out and get it out. And I would do that in bed. And then my son would come in and go, "I made you toast," or "I made you some coffee," or whatever. And he was bringing it to me. And then I finally went, "Oh, something's not right here." I mean, he was only 7. I'm like, something's not right here. My 7-year-old should not be fixing mom, you know, something to eat, something to drink. So that was my wake up call. So I really like that she talked about journaling, and I really like that she talked about triggers and knowing and being aware of what your triggers were, because that happened to me yesterday. I felt those triggers. I was like, oh, these are the same triggers that put me in the bed, 20 some years ago. And so that's very key, is you've got to learn to listen to what's going on inside of yourself, because I think once you have that, and once you know what that is, then you can get a grasp on your triggers. So that was my whole takeaway. What was yours, Heather?
Well, I think actually, as she was saying certain things, and as she was, describing some of the emotions she went through, or the physical parts, or the, what she'd done, like, she was just going through the day and didn't realize how she got to work and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's also being on the other end and recognizing that with other people, somebody else in our lives, and may not be us in particular, or maybe it is somebody that we know that has gone through that, and you kind of look at them and you're like, they don't seem like themselves that they were 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or last month, whatever. It's like reaching out to them, because they may not want to reach out to you and going, I need help. So even being on the opposite end and saying, hey, is everything okay? Do you need to talk? Do you need to just somebody to listen? And being that other person. So like being aware of, yes, yourself, but also being aware of other people around you. I think that was like what I was thinking of as well. It's like, as much as I knew me and I knew what I was going through, it was okay, but I also knew other people that were going through it, and I saw it in them as well. So just recognizing that. So I think that is a big thing. As much as we talk about ourselves, it's also recognizing others and being that person to reach out, because we know as ourselves, we weren't ones to reach out and go, hey, by the way, I need that help. We were more of, no, I'm good, I'm fine, right? So that's a big way.
Yeah, that's very true, because it is very hard to ask for help. So, and I think that sometimes for a lot of us, it's easier sometimes if somebody asks us, do you need help? Do you need to talk? Do you just need a shoulder? Like I'll say to people all the time, if you just need a shoulder or somebody to just bounce off of, I'm here for you. So I do think that is very important, because I know I couldn't ask for help back then. So yeah, I do agree with that, Heather, a lot.
And it probably wasn't until you were asked, are you okay? That floodgate opened, and you're like, whoa, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm really not.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, because you kept putting the dams, the sticks and everything up there, and then all of a sudden somebody just asks, and then that was it. And that's what maybe we need to be for other people, as well as we need to recognize that in ourselves.
Right. Because the other thing too is, we think nobody notices those things. We think we're hiding it very, very well. So when somebody actually does come up and say, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Then it's like, oh no, I'm not playing this role real well. I didn't hide that very good. So what was your thoughts, Tara, since I cut you off?
No, I cut you off. I'm just like, yeah, I think, I think one of the things that both you guys talked about that's so important is, discussing that, that recognition, or that, sorry, stuttering now. I've had this like cough today. I apologize to Tina. I don't know if it was rolling live. I had to like dive because I was having a coughing attack. But, just that discussion of, recognizing like, hey, I don't want to be stuck on medication for a long time, because I think in a lot of situations, it's needed in a temporary basis, maybe for a period of time, but you do know that you have to get off it eventually. So the whole just kind of settling into, that's okay, I feel good now, I'm on some medication, and not going, well, but this isn't a long-term plan. This is just masking the symptoms temporarily. And like she said, it's a disease within the body. And I know when I went through my own health journey, that was one of the things I got onto the naturopath very solidly. And I was like, I don't want anything. It was like, I had a hysterectomy afterwards, and I was like, no, like, give me my essential oils, and so that was at that time I realized, I'm like, okay, maybe now I need some pain alleviation at this moment. But, it's, realizing that, okay, hey, wait, this is where I'm at now, checking in and saying, okay, this isn't where I want to remain. So yeah, I think it's so important, because I think it's easy for a lot of people to get stuck into that, where they're taking the meds and things like that and going, well, it's okay, I feel good. But you're never actually addressing what's really going on. You're never really getting to what's causing that disease within the body. And until you realize like, hey, I either got to come off it or I'm on it for life. Like that's really your two options. Yeah, I don't think you can keep going back and forth. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I do
Definitely
too.
lots of good things today. I think, like I said, many people can relate to um, having a diagnosis and or dealing with depression in their lives. And um, I know that someone is going to watch today, and even that knowing that you are not alone in the stuff that you're going through, I think is really important. I know that for me, when I was dealing with it, I didn't have a really good support system. I spent 3 different occasions in the hospital. As Tina talked about, don't put me in the hospital. I've been there 3 times. um, and and I think that if I had just realized that at the moment that I wasn't alone, and that I, like I said, I could make those empowered choices, that I could change things if I wanted to. If I believed that in the time, I feel like I would have come out of the situation quicker than I did. And so I think that someone somewhere will watch this. I really believe that people end up watching these little shows on Facebook at times when they need to, and someone will watch it somewhere, and just know that you are not alone, and that many of us have been there before. I think it's really important to realize that. So I am sorry to say that we have come to the end of the show today. I want to
Right.
thank Tina C. Hines for being our fabulous guest on the show, Heather Clark, our declutter coach and consultant, and Tara Abram, meditation teacher, who did amazing jobs as panelists today of the Breakthrough. And I, of course, want to thank all of you for being here with us, whether you've been on live or on the replay. I also want to let you know that we here on the Breakthrough are looking for new partners for our show to help us do some advertising. So if you have a business and you feel like your audience could benefit from the content on the show, please contact us. You can find all of our contact information in the description of the video. So for now, my name is Jessica Dugas, intuitive mentor and energy healer.
And I am Donna Brown, holistic wellness practitioner, and this has been The Breakthrough. Join us next week when we have these amazing panelists, Jamad Kelly, Lori Davis, and Tara Abram will be back as well next week. And our guest next week is Suzanne Doolin. Did I butcher her name? I try not to. Doolin, business coach and yogi, as she